So let's get started. It's a little past 2 o'clock. Welcome. And this is the afternoon session, the first afternoon session on day 2 of our International Forum on Youth 2021. Thank you for coming. And this session, 2 o'clock session on the 16th of November, is on study abroad. And so we have a study abroad panel. And in a moment, I will have each of the panelists introduce themselves. My name is Sab Matsumoto. I am one of the 2 faculty co-leads along with Dr. Brent Riffle for this event. And we are very fortunate to take part, or to be able to take part in the planning and organizing this international forum. This is our 3rd one. As you may be aware, this is the, every year we pick a different theme. And the first year was identity, and then we had migration last year, and this year's theme is transition. As we often say, we transition, or we evolve, or we change all the time. And again, a year and a half ago, we had a drastic change really forced upon us by this pandemic. And at that point, we were shocked that we may have to be isolated for like 2 weeks. And that was a shocking experience. And it has sort of elongated itself to like a year and a half now. But anyway, we have lots of challenges in transition, and pretty much every aspect of our life has been affected, including education. And that includes our study abroad programs. And so we have people and experts who are experienced in that kind of a program. And so let's have the panelists introduce themselves. And I will go with, and I don't know exactly how the Zoom pictures are organized, but I have, let's go with the order in which I see the panelists. And so I have Daniel Wu first, and then we have Claudia next, and then we have Catherine. And so Mr. Daniel Wu, please introduce yourself, and then we'll go on from there.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm from Taiwan, and I'm working in Taichung Municipal Huiwen High School. It's a public high school. And I'm in charge of international education, majorly guide the student to study abroad, to travel abroad. And I've been in this seat around 7 years till now. So I'm so excited to be invited here and share some experiences with all the experts and all the professors here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, and all right, Dr. Claudia Acosta.
Thank you. Well, I'm very excited to be part of this panel. I'm Claudia Acosta, and I teach at College of the Canyons. I teach languages. I teach specifically Spanish. I also have participated in study abroad. I am originally from Nicaragua. I am in California, where College of the Canyons is, in Santa Clarita. And I will tell you more about me and the various things that I've done with not only teaching abroad, but also organizing delegations, humanitarian and literacy, as well as other type of delegations abroad. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. And then Dr. Catherine Puntney.
Everyone, so happy to see everyone today. My name is Catherine Puntney. I'm a professor at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies in Monterey, California, and I teach international education management. So it's a master's degree, and our students are learning how to design and run study abroad programs, how to work with international students, how to have careers in fields that help people cross cultures in ways that are meaningful and help them to connect and understand each other. So I'm happy to talk more about the study abroad field. And if anyone's interested in careers, we can chat about that too.
Good, thank you. So let me just make a couple of general announcements here for the audience and whoever is watching or listening to this. So you can use the chat room if you are online, and if you can use the chat room to ask questions, and we will definitely have questions and answers. The time for a Q&A at the end of our panel discussion. So if you have any questions specifically to a panelist, or to the panel, please use the chat room. And also, I just want you to be aware that So yesterday for the first, keynote speaker, Diane Van Hook, our own chancellor, I personally invited, like many of my faculty friends, and basically a lot of them were not able to come because it was 11 o'clock on Monday. And so we all have different schedules and we are busy. And so many of them are watching this afterwards. And so, this will be online to be available to the public. And so please be aware of that. And, we will probably have a lot more people watching and listening to this session later. Okay, so with that, is there any question before we start with the first question to the panelists? Are we okay to go on? All right, and also I think there's something in the chat room. Okay, thank you. About the, if you want extra credit or flex credit or extra credit for your class for attending this, please put your name and your teacher's name in the chat box. Okay, let's go to question number 1. I have 4 or 5 questions to ask the panelists, and we can go with the same order, Daniel, Claudia, and Catherine, or, if you want to switch the order around, maybe we can do that. And we will just do that dynamically, and whoever wants to answer these questions can go first. If nobody volunteers, I may have to call your name. Okay. So number 1, this is a general question. In what way or ways have you been involved in study abroad programs? Typically, it'll be associated with your workplace, but maybe not. And then what types of programs are they? So in what ways have you been involved? And what types of programs have you been involved and have you experienced in? Maybe we can go with the same order. Mr. Daniel Wu, please tell us of your experience in study abroad programs.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the invitation. And first of all, we are in the school. So every year we encourage our students to go abroad in action. So like this question, I can divide into 2 parts. First part is that we lead the students to the field. For example, we work with the NGO and we went to the field in Southeast Asia. For example, last few years before pandemic, we went to Cambodia, a small village, and we guide the students to do like a participatory observation, to do the interview. We train them to do lots of different action program in the field. So for example, we conduct we use the cell phone and we guide the students using like an OpenStreetMap. It's a free source and they can position the place, the village that never happened in Google Map. So our students help them to position all the location and try to collect the resources into the village and share the information to outdoor services. So to the NGO as well. So this is why we did previous in like a field services. And we also guide the students to do some volunteer work to help them to fix everything, library, to donate the books, guide the student to do the real action plan to let them understand all the situation. So this part we did in some countries as well. And second part, we also work with many higher education. Yeah, for example, we work with like university in UK, in some Netherlands. We try to convince the university our academic ability in the students. So because we are not English speaking country, so like our student, if you want to enter in the university, they need to study 1 more foundation year. So we try to convince the university, try to shorten the foundation year. So like our student, they can go to the foundation in their grade 12, take the course, and then students, no matter it's online or the fast to fast, right now, past 2 years become like online. And both of our school can take the credits together. So students, they can study continually in the high school and then in September, they can enter in the university directly, which means they save the tuition fee and they save a year to spend one more year in the foundation, and they just enter in to experiences the high quality education in UK or Netherlands. This is what we did in European, and in Germany, we also work with the university directly. Actually, German is doing like a intercultural education. They spend a lot of efforts in high school right now. For example, they through the topics, the contents, and through the EFL course, which means that English as they studied foreign language, German language as a second language. They combine lots of culture, content, events into the curriculums. So our students, once they pass the A2 level, they can go to the university in Germany and study in the language programs and study for like 6 to 8 months and then direct into their university. This is the other part what we did in my school. And moreover, we also work with, of course, like a COC. That's this summer, we have like a business hunter with our high school students. And so luckily they all passed the credits and got the credits. And we have 23 students who take this course through online, which means in the future, once they enter in the university, they can waive the credits immediately and they can experience more credits in the COC. And this is very the new part. And moreover, we also work with like Asian countries like Singapore and like it's an education hub. So students, they study in Singapore, they can get the diploma from UK, USA, or Australia. Yeah, it's like an overseas campus, and they just study 3 years there. So like this, we have so many programs and working continually and working in international education right now happen in my school. Yeah, and actually right now I'm in Canada. Yeah, although I'm a Taiwanese, but I'm in Canada because we have 6 students here right now. They got the dual diploma program. They are studying grade 12 right now in Canada. They are in the school. So I'm here with them together. So after they got, we both of our school will take the credits together so they can get 2 diploma from Canada and from Taiwan as well. So they can use the diploma and apply the university, firstly, of course, in Canada. Yeah, and then also they can apply the other countries too. So this is what we did right now in what I involved right now through several years till now. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, that was a lot of countries we just heard about. Got the Asia and Europe and Australia, Canada, and the US. So that is a robust program there. Okay, let's go to Dr. Acosta.
Thank you. Same question?
So in what ways have you been involved in study abroad programs, and what kind of programs have you been participating in?
Sure. Well, I've been involved in so many different ways. One, as a faculty member teaching abroad, both short and semester-long interdisciplinary programs to places like Spain, Latin America, both Central and South America, as a lead instructor and lead faculty developing a program abroad, helping others to do that. Also has a member of the Educational Travel Committee, providing mentorship and so forth. And also has a board member of the Santa Clarita Sister Cities. I have worked and developed programs, one of them called Global Collaborative Project, in which students go to a country, for example, usually related to places where we have our programs, sister cities or sister schools, etc. And they have done a project. And so I've been involved that way. Now, I've done a lot of travel abroad, more than 20 years. And this is at the college level. The classes from our college with our instructors and also with the curriculum from here, right? Our students as well. And we've gone to places and we've done different programs. When I say short-term programs, I'm referring to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks programs to one or more than one country. Many of the programs that I've been involved, because they are interdisciplinary, they've involved disciplines in the humanities and sciences. We've gone to at least 2 countries. One of them in particular, actually there were 2, the year of 2009, when the college received a wonderful grant from the U.S. Department of State, and the college received that, and a number of my colleagues and I participated in 2 programs. And basically it was for travel to non-traditional destinations. And we developed, obviously, the narrative of and description, and we took students to 3 countries in Central America. So we took about 20 students, and there were 3 faculty members teaching biology, Spanish, and hotel and restaurant management, and that class was tourism. So just to give you an idea, we also did the same in South America, taking students to Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil as well. So those are the short-term programs usually offered in the summer or in the winter, but also can be offered in the semester, because we do have flexible formats, accelerated classes, and so forth. I've also been involved in a semester-long program, and that one in particular was through our consortium. And I went to Spain with colleagues from other colleges in California, and we taught art, political science, and I was teaching Spanish language and culture. And that was a full semester. It was the spring semester many years ago. So we've done all of that in all the programs that we've done at the college. We've always tried to add, as well as Daniel mentioned, a service learning or some sort of social project that we incorporate, where students can participate and can also see something else and participate and feel very useful and learn in the process about the cultures and the needs of that country. So I'm really excited about all of that we've done with our students. And let's see, anything else that you'd like me to add? I think I'm not sure about the time.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm sure that more will come out as we ask more questions. Yeah, let's move on to Dr. Catherine Puntney.
Thank you. Well, let me speak a little bit to my personal experience and then my professional experience.
Okay.
On the personal level, I was in Girl Scouts growing up, and when I was in high school, we were invited to go for 2 weeks to Japan for like an international Girl Scout camp kind of thing. So that was a great experience for me to learn about another country and culture and to start getting some international experience. And then I had a second opportunity in high school to do something similar in Singapore, another like 2-week Girl Scout camp. So that for me was sort of the start and the spark that got me really excited about study abroad. So knowing already that I wanted to study abroad, when I was doing my bachelor's degree, I became an Asian studies major, and 24 students and a professor spent a year traveling around Asia together. And we did 1 year worth of classes, but like one intensive class at a time in each of the countries we went to for the Asian studies major. So for me, that was, so amazing. I felt like I got to see so many parts of the world I wasn't familiar with, really push myself in terms of my own learning and my own growth and sort of understanding of global dynamics, global systems in a way that I hadn't been before. So that was sort of the personal side. And then, of course, during my bachelor's, I was thinking about my profession and what did I want to do? And suddenly it hit me, this was a field, I could do this professionally. So I went into international education. I started out teaching English in Japan, and then worked on a master's in international ed. And then I went to India, where I was working for the Girl Scouts, actually, the Girl Scout Center. But they had teenagers and adults from around the world coming together for kind of international friendship events. So I was supervising this international team of staff that were running these events all year round. So I did that for 4 years and had a great experience. So that was, and while I was there, I also created a service learning program. People could come and stay at our Girl Scout Center and spend 1 day a week having like language and culture lessons with us. But then 4 days a week, they were a staff member at a nonprofit in the local area and helping to run some of the local nonprofits. So that was another piece of it. I've had a couple other jobs where I was receiving international students in the US and helping them get settled in, which is sort of the other side of study abroad, people coming to the US. So I've done that in a few different positions. And then just as I was finishing up my doctorate in education, I got an opportunity to go to the Monterey Institute of International Studies, where I am now, and to start teaching the work that I've been doing for the last 20 years in international education. So now I'm teaching the next generation of professionals how to design and run study abroad programs, how to work with the budgets, with crisis management, with marketing and recruitment, all the different pieces that it takes, both to make the educational part of the program effective, but also the sort of business side of running it all.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so we have a lot of experience, a lot of different types of experience among our panelists, and that is really exciting. Okay, so my next question is related to this, of course, why do we do this? Number 2, our question is, what are some benefits and real world skills gained by our students who participate in the study abroad program? So as students, our students go out, and I guess I'm speaking of domestic American students going out to other countries to study abroad, what kind of benefits and real world skills would they be gaining by this experience? And I'm going to open the floor to whoever wants to answer this question first. So any of the panelists can respond to this question.
I can if you.
I would love to, yes, please. Claudia?
Well, definitely study abroad is a wonderful, incredible learning experience for anyone, because in addition to the traditional learning of a discipline, whether you're going there to study language or any discipline, the practical aspects that you gain by living abroad, the employers will look for the international experience that the student has. And then you obtain in the process of that, of learning everything that you plan to learn, the wonderful things that you never planned to learn, you never thought you'd be learning, you would learn. For example, problem solving skills. You have to also deal with a lot of ambiguity that is related to being in a foreign country where they speak a different language, where it's a different culture, you're alone, etc. So also being able to adapt. Those are really skills that today employers are looking for. You communicate, you also meet people, you make friends, that would be forever, right? Lifelong relationships, but also when depending on where you go, but I really believe anywhere you go, you also will develop empathy, empathy, compassion. Thinking about all the programs that we've done to Central America, to delegations that we've taken students to the Amazon basin in Ecuador, where they've also participated in humanitarian projects, where they're learning about other cultures, but also they see the world how it is. And obviously values, right? And it's a process in which you start thinking about your own values and the values of a new culture, and respect for people's differences. All of that really is what employers are looking for. In terms of personal development, students, what I've seen in this almost 20 years of taking students, I've seen a wonderful transformation of who they are, their personal development. They get to be more independent. They learn to know themselves. Knowing more about ourselves is really important, and it's important for employers because we're able to act and make decisions better. We improve our self-confidence when we know a little bit more about ourselves. And of course, the ability to adapt, I mentioned that, to the diverse situations. The world is changing, and it's changing really fast. And to be able to solve problems and one becomes more resourceful, especially after, even if the experience is only 3 or 4 weeks, to be away from your comfort zone. And you have to negotiate and communicate, and you have to be flexible. They're looking for flexibility and new perspectives, and also to be tolerant. We become more tolerant with how everything functions in the new environment, ambiguity I mentioned, etc. So it is a life-changing experience. And obviously, I would say, as somebody who teaches language and culture, is the cross-cultural awareness and competency that they're looking for. Employers are looking for that. And I would add leadership skills as well, because you become a leader. When you're there, you have to lead not only yourself, but also others that are there in the program, your classmates who may not have developed the resources that you have. So, and we all, of course, we know that knowing a foreign language gives anyone the competitive edge in today's workforce economy. So I would add that. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? We are focusing on the benefits and the real life skills of students studying abroad.
I think Claudia covered so much of it in terms of the career benefits and what employers are looking for, the soft skills about confidence, problem solving, communication, intercultural communication, foreign languages. I would add perhaps that all the global issues we look at today, all industries are so international now. I mean, certainly any kind of issue that we're trying to make a difference in around human rights, social justice, environmental change, poverty, all of these are international issues, right, with international implications. So the more we can learn about the world, the better. But even other, technology obviously is incredibly international. Media is so international. Things that I wouldn't at first thought of that way, like agriculture is incredibly international now. You can't find a field anymore that isn't really international in scope, where there's not a strong career advantage to you, and beyond even your own individual benefit from careers, your ability to make a difference in the world and in the work you do is stronger for having studied abroad.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, it's my turn, right?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think most of the two panelists already mentioned above, but I like to share my experiences through research. It's a neuroscientist from Dr. Dale Lee, published in Newton in 2019. And actually it's from a neurosystem to mention about this part. I like it very much, so I'd like to share to everyone. So it's a kind of a monkey animal experiments in the laboratory. So it tests a group of monkey to press the button. And if you press the right button, and the monkey can get the juice. So originally all the monkey, they doesn't know the pattern. So they try and error. After several times, and they try to check the monkey's forehead, frontal lobe from here. And actually this is a kind of landing center, and can catch the information and get the comprehension. So this is the, the researcher found that, and after a monkey try and he knows everything. So the monkey already, after they got 80% fluently about these experiments, they checked their forehead. They found that their forehead already closed. They don't want to learn and they don't willing to try. So I like this study because when you entering unstable or more novel environments, it may enhance your brain's ability to absorb more information. However, if you live in comfort zone, as the previous panelists mentioned, you stop to learning. So as we mentioned about a study abroad programs, I like this because from my students, just take very daily behavior. They get used to everything in their comfortable zone. So when they travel abroad, you can easily find it. Oh, they lost cell phone, they lost everything. They are not willing to. They just try to live in like a original environment way. However, when they are not familiar with that environment, they are more censored about everything. They try to carry everything. They try to catch a program on time. They try to go to class. They try to submit all the assignment, discussion. They try to do the team building, try to solve the problem by themselves. And when they have different cultural classmates in the classroom, they start to understand differently from different aspects. So they can grow immediately. This is what I hear and what I observe from parents or from myself. Yeah, so just share like this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we've covered lots of different skills and experience. It's really actually, just the things that you have mentioned, all the panelists have mentioned. It's not like skills that are, maybe directly, related. I'm not talking like, we are not talking about skills to, to write or to, do math or something. This is more of a soft skills or something that's a lot more general, right? That involves an entire personality. And I think that's a great point as we look at the, these benefits. And I know I'm not a panelist, I'm a facilitator, but I myself also have spent many, many years as a foreign student or international student here in the United States. Just so everybody knows, I moved to the Central Valley, the Fresno area. I grew up in the big city of Kobe, Japan for 15 years, born and raised. And then my first year was in this very rural area of Fresno, surrounded by cows and cornfields. And I was very depressed in a sense because I wasn't used to it. I mean, like you were mentioning, outside of my comfort zone. I was a pretty good student, but there I was like nothing, couldn't even speak the language, And so that taught me a lot of things. I spent years in the South, like South Carolina, Virginia, and Mississippi, and that was totally a different culture from the rest of the United States. And so I totally agree with it. I think those years really helped, to form who I am at this moment. And so many, many benefits I think I can just list from just being overseas. All right, so let's go to the third question. Now we have talked about the positive aspects of studying abroad, what students can benefit and gain and so on. But we are aware that there are many challenges, especially as an organizer or as somebody who leads or develops, international programs. So the third question, again, anybody can respond, is what are some of the challenges, main challenges in developing or carrying out study abroad programs? What challenges have you faced? What challenges or difficulties would you experience?
Large question, but I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I think it's worth pointing out that there are different models of study abroad. Daniel was speaking earlier about joint degree programs where you can do your studies at some of it at one university and some at another and get a degree that's issued by both, or sometimes even earn 2 different degrees, and that kind of joint or dual degree program. Claudia spoke earlier about faculty-led programs. They're often a little bit shorter, but you travel with a faculty member from your own university and the students go abroad with that faculty member and learn about their area of expertise. And then there are also ones through different consortia programs or provider organizations or through the university itself, where you can go abroad for a semester or a year, maybe through an exchange program, and you might even enroll in a foreign university and take classes with the local students. Or there are programs where you take classes meant for US students, maybe taught in English. So all these different models each have their own sort of challenges and complications in terms of designing and running them. I think there's a pedagogical piece about careful design, making sure that you're thinking about what the students will learn and how. When Claudia was speaking earlier about faculty-led programs where students go with the faculty, one of the most important pieces of advice that you would give faculty in this situation is, if your class looks the same overseas as it does at home, teaching that same subject, you're doing something wrong. You're supposed to be taking advantage of the location. You're supposed to be out interacting with people, doing things that you couldn't do in your classroom in the US. So there's that pedagogical piece. With the joint degree programs that Daniel's mentioning, one of the challenges is the getting the agreements between two different universities. You know, they both have all their own bureaucracies and all their own rules, and of course their own laws and regulations and budgets. And so making all the pieces fit together has amazing potential, but it's time consuming and takes a lot of careful communication. Sort of registering for a semester in another country, you know, academic calendars don't line up, credit transfer can be challenging. Definitely one can work through it, but you know, there's a little bit of effort. So there's those kinds of challenges in setting up the program and making sure it fits with your home study. And then other things around safety, crisis management that those of us that are working in this field spend a lot of time thinking about so that we're prepared if there's an earthquake while students are overseas, if there's, you know, if something happens and we need to evacuate students, how will we do that? Or if somebody's appendix bursts suddenly and they need medical treatment, you know, that we're prepared to deal with that kind of thing. Those are some of the challenges that come to mind for me. How about Claudia or Daniel?
Yeah, I agree with Catherine. We have lots of like a joint program or exchange program or like like an educator conference, lots of different like services programs, study agreements, something. The most challenging part is that sometimes when you're setting up a programs, but it's not students or parents or educators idealist one. So their goals. So I think the major one is that you need to spend a lot of time in communication and in negotiation, especially when we in charge of those international education programs. You need to prepare all the stuff in detail, as much as detail. And you need to explain it again and again and try to let them know the purpose of the design of this program. Otherwise, they will have think that, for example, it's like a exchange program for 14 days, but student may say that, oh, why I eat the raw fish every day? I can't have that. So just as a very tiny example, and I feel stomach, I'm not comfortable every day because we used to eat like warm dishes every day. So I think it's very tiny stuff. Before, if you talk to parents or talk to students or talk to faculty, or what's the situation, including like eating those very tiny stuff, then they got the well prepared and they won't have any complaint or any challenge to that they lose the program's original goals. So what I think the most challenging part is that you need to well prepare and well communicate to all the people, including students, including all the participants, including their parents, including all the detail. Once as more as you did it, then the program will be perfect. Yeah, this is what I think.
Good, thank you, Daniel. Claudia, you have anything to add?
Sure. So Catherine mentioned some of the things that I would normally add here. Ironically, some of the challenges do not, for us, do not actually relate to the pedagogy or how to teach a class in non-traditional environments, because that's, you know, depending on the program. Our faculty here, they pretty much understand that, and they're very, very creative. The challenge for us has been basically in terms of developing a program, it's meeting the minimum student enrollment requirement for the program to run. And because of the cost, we're a community college. And so even though the cost is only a fraction of what it would cost at a four-year university, we still run into that. The other thing is that, not a challenge, but it's simply that we all know how time consuming it is. We have to provide those orientations for students. We have to talk to parents. We have to also tell them and show them and teach them how to budget and how to, save money and how to do this and that. So that would be one of the challenges in developing programs. Now, in carrying out these programs, of course, is, I think Catherine mentioned, is the student safety abroad, health. This is before the pandemic, so we don't have terrorism, crimes, and crisis management. And of course, now we have the pandemic. Those of us who have taught abroad, we've always had a little bit of this and that. And we've learned. That's how we learn, right? I know that in Costa Rica, we were in the jungle pretty much, and we had a student that did not follow the instructions when how to go, how to step into the boat. She fell, and of course, she couldn't move, and we had to improvise. I had to rent a little one-engine tiny plane, because that's the only way we could get into this area, by boat or leave in a small plane. And I had to immediately hire a pilot that looked younger than my son, who took us there. And I became the co-pilot. Very crazy. Someone else stayed there. But and again, we prepared, we planned, we had a contingency plan. If something were to happen, then I'd go with the student. And I stayed with the student in San Jose, which is the capital of Costa Rica, for the days needed. Luckily, she was okay. She didn't have to have surgery, and all of that, but she had to remain there until her husband came. So those are the things that I believe in carrying out when we're abroad. I remember back in 2003 with the war, I was in Spain, people were protesting everywhere. So, but that gave us an opportunity, because students learn a lot. Something that we never thought they'd be learning, and they learn. We talked a little bit about the war, the position for the United States, how we had to be more prudent and discreet, not to wear any t-shirts that called attention, because everybody was going out there and protesting. So those are the challenges there. But with training and preparation and planning and a little bit of creativity, and also having someone at the college that you call and they're informed. I mean, they were checking on us one time. There was a volcano eruption where we were, or an earthquake in Central America, and they immediately, is everybody okay? Everybody's fine. They're scared. I invited them for churros. They're fine. No worries. Immediately head count. Okay, let's learn about volcanoes and earthquakes and so forth. And I think everything else they've said, my colleagues here.
Yeah, there are some things that, we don't normally think about, but that turned out to be relevant. I mean, I'm from Japan, and to 1995, my hometown of Kobe was sort of devastated by an earthquake, and then similar things happened in 2011. And I do remember foreign students, especially American students, studying in those areas, where the American embassy was saying, well, look, just because you're an American, we can't just go and say, hey, we're Americans, we need to fly home, because these people were not able to even move around. And so that kind of a emergency preparedness, it turns out to be a very important thing. So thank you for these responses. So I want to be aware of the time, and we want to move on. But so the next question, I think we have maybe touched on this. The question number 4 is, why do you think study abroad programs are important for the next generation of youth? And I think the emphasis here is because this is an international forum on youth, we want to focus on the next generation of youth, the young people. Why do you think it's especially important for them, the next generation of young people, to participate in study abroad programs, including, what's happening today or near future, whatever? If you have any answers or ideas on why it's so important for our next generation of youth, I would appreciate your comments and remarks. Go ahead and unmute it. Yeah, go ahead, Daniel, I think. Which one? Unmuted yourself first.
Oh.
Yeah, you can go. Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you. Right now, I think it's like a very cyber, very information, very technology area. So all the information change so rapidly. is even far from our imagination. For example, no one knows the pandemics happen. No one knows. We would use the online to take the regular course. So everything changed so fast. And therefore, there are lots of theory or so-called a realistic reality already changed. That's why we talk to our young students, and they always say that it's not always it's not always had the correct answer. It's become like a multiple reality era right now. So things change so fast. So they need to develop their react the question fastly. They need to think critically to react the word to solve the problem. And furthermore, they need to have their mind to face the failure, as much as possible, and they can react quickly. Because I found that right now, students, when they are living in a technology area, so sometimes it's very easy to have a depressed. They cannot face the trouble. They cannot take the risk easily. Sometimes they will crash immediately. But before this time, they probably say, oh, I can do something. I'm confident. But when they face the problem, they give up immediately. This is what I think from high school area. So therefore, because they can catch all the information from the mass media, so they always feel that, oh, I can catch the information that I need. I don't need to go to school. I am not interested about that. When they have some trouble, it seems that everything is correct, everything repeatedly. So I think that through the study abroad programs, probably when they do some real action plan, do some service or study abroad, they need to face themselves independently, and they need to solve the problem by themselves, and they need to calm down and think and rethink and rebuild their mindset, value, standard. This is what I found is very, very important. Students, when they have this kind of multi experiences, it's good for them to face this rapid era. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Daniel. You know what? I actually have a couple of follow-up questions. I think you are, representing sort of high school students, going to overseas. Some of the things you just mentioned, are they particularly for younger like high school students as opposed to college level students? And then, do you see a difference between men and women or boys and girls in what you were describing?
What I observe is the high school student, no any differences. Yeah, they care about the relationship, they care about their social skill, and they are hesitant to, they concern too much because from social media, they concern too much others' idea, others' opinion, and they forgot what they really want. I think this they care about the message, the offline message, what people think about themselves, and therefore they may easily to influence by social media very, very fast, and they just say, I feel upset. Sometimes you ask why, and say, oh, because someone says something. I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, I'm blah 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 blah, and they concern too much about this part, and they forget what they want to learn, why they want to be in the school, and everything already changed right now. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So on Thursday, we are going to have a student panel. One of the questions we will be asking them is about the social media and so on. So that's good. Thank you very much. How about the others? Any other comments about why it's so important for the next generation of youth to go overseas?
Well, following Daniel's point, I think it's really important because this is a digital generation, and because they know more about the world, no question about it. But because they need to have some more real human interactions, intercultural, Catherine mentioned that earlier, the intercultural aspect is very, very important. And this is the generation that we're creating, or we're forming global citizens. The ethical responsibility that study abroad gives you, and also the human interaction, learning about the other directly, in also reflecting on your own values. Just Daniel touched on that, which is very true. And they need to have that contact more than ever. So that's what I would say, why that is important. These are our future leaders. And they somehow have gained in the digital vein, but have actually lacked in the human interaction. And they need to see the world. And also they're the ones that are very active in some of the current issues, like global climate and injustice and all of that. So the ethical aspect, responsibility, being a global citizen and learning more, being and touching and interacting with people from other countries. I think that's important.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
My answer
Yeah.
is probably similar and brings in both Daniel and Claudia's points. I think that most of our real issues in the world today around injustice, inequity, conflict, war, has to do with groups not getting along and people stereotyping and putting negative ideas on other groups. And I think the earlier we can counteract that, the more peaceful and just world we can have. So I think it's very important that we're starting early in K-12 or even before kindergarten, in age-appropriate ways, teaching people about both US domestic diversity, but also about the world around them, about getting them to the point where they're excited to learn about other cultures that are different than their own, not just relegating those people as others. How do we really understand others in a way that's positive and that's human and connected? And then, of course, as they're getting older, starting to look at the structural issues and societal issues that come into play too, beyond the interpersonal, that lead to some of these conflicts and inequities. So I think waiting until we have adults is way too late. You need to really start getting people thinking about this at an early age. And that can be through the curriculum. There's a lot of really great stuff out there for K-12 teachers now to teach about global issues, global topics. And then also this, with the technology, the virtual classroom to classroom connections, and used to be you had to put people on planes, but now you really could start young and have a classroom in one country and a classroom in another country, do a project together in a really meaningful way and learn from that and really be interacting. So there's a lot of materials for teachers out there to facilitate that.
Yeah, good. Thank you so much. I remember when I was a student, first, from Japan, and I'm talking to my American new friends about Japan, and I realized how little most American students knew about the rest of the world, including Japan. Like, how do you not know this? I mean, some people thought that, the Japanese, I mean, they just live in these, tiny homes. And one of them asked, this is back in the 80s, one of them asked, do they have cars in Japan? Like, yeah, have you heard of Toyota? And that was my response. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I think it's great to have that more of a global understanding of other cultures, as opposed to just focusing on the place and the country and the language and the culture you live in. So thank you for the response. Okay, I have one last question, and I think it's an important one. And then after this, we will open this up to questions. I have some questions in the chat box that I will be looking at, but this one last question to the panelists is this: what do you want to see done next? What do you want to plan next? What's your next thing on the wish list or in your goals? Whether it's something that you are going to be able to do short term or a long term project. If you could do one more thing, and it could be a thing on the wish list. Maybe you can't do it right away. Maybe there's no money or whatever, but what do you want to see done next? That's the question. Anyone?
You said wish list, right?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
yeah, it's just because we don't have to limit to what can be done, short term. Just anything is okay.
The sky is the limit. I've always believed that study abroad should be required, or at least more accessible to all college students. And I hope that at some point there's some advocacy, some legislation, something that helps provide our students, community college students, with the financial resources to perhaps be able to afford to be able to access a class. It's a class. They go and they study abroad. It's very unequal right now. It's the disadvantage, the same students that we know who they are, they can't ever dream of studying abroad, right? And so that would be, I hope that we can work and improve there as we move forward. Here at the college, we're working on a number of programs that we'll be having in the next year. We have a program that will be offered in Peru, Cusco, Peru. So that should be nice. That's more tangible. Another one in Spain, again, interdisciplinary programs that where students can take 2 classes or so. But definitely, again, I think the major barrier that I see is precisely that only those whose parents can afford study abroad can actually engage and do that, and others don't. And so there's not financial aid necessarily directed for study abroad. There's some programs out there, but not a lot. So that's my take.
Great, thank you. Catherine, go ahead.
Yeah, of course, I share Claudia's wish. Let's get everybody to study abroad. And there certainly is funding. I hope people will talk to your study abroad advisors and see what is possible for you. But I would love to have even more funding available to make it even more widely available. I guess there are 2 things that came to mind for me. One is, teaching international education management, and we're developing a master's degree. So that's something that will be online. We already have one in person, but I think it allows people, hopefully from all around the world, to take the program without having to move to Monterey, California, but also people that are working to work in a part-time. So we're excited about the increased access for that. And I'm enjoying sort of learning the skills for online pedagogy. And then on a more personal level, my daughter went to Monterey High School and been working with them a little bit, trying to get more of those virtual connections set up, because the same thing, it's a very small number of students at the high school level that would go abroad. But I think every student should have these amazing international and intercultural interactions. So trying to help them work with teachers so that they could work with a classroom overseas and do a joint project and have that experience.
All right. This is a big question. Yeah.
but anything is okay. Anything goes.
Yeah.
Anything you like.
Yeah. Because my personal experiences, because I got my master in Taiwan, but it is like a all English program. We include half of the international students from outside, and all the professors from United States or other countries and join together in this program. So I studied in these programs, and in my second year of my master, I went to India as my internship for a whole year. So after that, I got the chance to work in India for 4 years, and I start to travel in my 20-something, travel in India 4 years, Mongolia, Cambodia, those countries, and I worked that. And after that, I back to school. I don't know why I still working in international education. Yeah, probably it's my destiny, something. So you just mentioned what is the goal for myself. And I actually, when I think tracing back to my life, I think the internship is very important. And because of that chance, I start to travel, I explore the world. So what I do right now in high school, I try, because actually in Taiwan, before they like middle school, high school, when they are like in this age, it's quite very, very difficult. Or how can I say? It's lots of like pressure in academic part. It's not like North American. People study they can always finish the project in school and not lots of like a tax exam in the school. But we have bunch of this exam every day. Students, they need to study until very late. So what I observe is that students, they limit their imagination and their creativity and their innovation and their shortage of confidence. So my goal is that I want to encourage more students to gain more to have more chance to have the mobility ability. I encourage them, no matter attending like an international service program or like attending our joint diploma or attending any kinds of like a COC's course, something, because I think once they have different experiences in international education, they can rebuild their value, their standard, to including how they talk to their parents, influence their family. Moreover, I also want more international students coming to Taiwan. They join the class together and they can talk and influence our community, our people. So this is what I think. And I try to get more resources from higher education to let the tuition fee. Actually, to study abroad is very expensive. Yeah, not all the family, all the students, they can afford. So I try to encourage students to access more accessible funding. For example, study in Germany is for free in tuition fee. Join the COC through UCLA, they can save half money. For example, those programs, I'd like to enroll more into my school. This is my goal. Thank you.
Yeah, you brought many good points, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, so it is about the time for us to go into Q&A session, and I have several questions and in the chat box. If I think at the end, if we have more time, you can just maybe unmute yourself if you have any more questions. And instead of going through the order in which the questions came, I want to address what Daniel was just talking about, and I think Claudia mentioned this as well. The fact that many students at this point can't afford to do overseas studies or study abroad. And so one question came from a participant on this Zoom meeting, and the question was, I like Claudia's idea, but how do we fund international education in light of our financial struggle in the United States? And then how do we convince professors who have little or no interest in international education to get on board? So maybe the first question, the panelists, do you have any idea that many students are struggling? Well, I don't know in other countries, but in the US especially, and they can barely send their children to college, let alone doing study abroad.
Well, since I mentioned that, I'll start.
Sure.
So the question is, how is that funded in light of the high cost of everything? Because I really believe that the system, the community college system, can't fund that. It is a class, just the same way they fund a class and they provide an additional. This is not like a study abroad every semester, but this is a one opportunity, the one perhaps only opportunity that someone would have. I mean, there could be other incentives for those students that are outstanding students. It could work that way for students who are graduating. But I really believe that, I used to believe that the bachelor's level, it should be required. Now I believe at the associate's level, it should be required. The first 2 years, why not? And it doesn't have to be a fancy and all of that study abroad. It's just the opportunity for students to live for a short time, if anything, abroad and be exposed to a new language, a new culture. And we know that in the process, that transformational, wonderful experience, the person will grow up, will learn more about themselves, will have more confidence, be more independent, and reflect on their own values. And we will have that global citizen. So if it is in the name of global citizenship or global responsibility, etc., I think it can be done. Of course, I'm not a mathematician, Sab, you can tell us. But I think funding it, we'll do the math, we take this and that.
Yeah, so we should mention that at College of the Canyons, when we started this program, and I sort of helped establish this partnership with a school in Nagasaki, Japan, a few years ago. And this exchange program, it's basically tuition free. So our students pay tuition to the COC, and then they get to study at this private school in Japan. And they can apply for a Japanese scholarship funded by the Japanese government, where maybe the cost of living could almost be, its cost of free is really cheap there because they have a dormitory. And so with that kind of a program, it may be cheaper for them to study abroad, as opposed to like living in an expensive neighborhood in the United States. And I would say, if your family has money to send you to a private school like USC or something, certainly you can afford to live overseas. But anyway, American college is extremely expensive these days, right? So
at the community college level, it is a smart decision because it is really, in terms of the cost, it's only a fraction. And you would know, right? We all know the cost at a four-year university for a study abroad. I think at the community college is 1/3 of what it would cost.
Exactly, absolutely,
it also depends on the country. I mean, in Latin America, it would be nothing, in terms of the room and board.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So any other comments about the affordability?
I guess I would say that part of the responsibility lies with the college or the university. They need to make sure that financial aid will transfer and apply to study abroad, setting up the kind of bilateral exchange programs you were talking about, where students pay their tuition in their home university, but essentially take the spot of another student at the other university. Going to places where making sure that there are programs available in places where the cost of living is less, and less than California is usually easy to come by. So there's a structural piece about what the university needs to do, also working with donors to find scholarships, that kind of thing. And then individual students, I hope that they would at least go have the conversation with the study abroad advisor. Don't just rule it out, because you should find out what's out there. Say, cost is a concern for me. What's your advice? There may really be options. Maybe there are international internships with payment. Depends a lot on your field, whether you could be paid for an internship. It's worth looking into. Also, exchanges.state.gov is a US government website that lists all the US government funded programs. They're quite competitive, but people still get selected and get to go. And I think it's worth looking to see what's available there. Those are usually fully funded. That's exchanges.state.gov. But definitely don't hesitate to go to the study abroad advisors, talk to them, tell them it's a concern, and see what kind of offerings they have at your individual college or university and how they can help direct you.
Good, thank you. Anything else about this point before we go to the next question? So there was the second part of the question, how do you encourage or motivate faculty with little or no interest to be involved in this? And I can certainly appreciate that question. Any suggestions or ideas that you can mention? It doesn't have to be, I guess it doesn't have to be faculty, it could be students who have no interest in studying abroad or something. How do you get them motivated? How do you get them going?
I would say, if they were students, I would say to students, you need to do something like this, because your employer is going to look at that and it's going to appreciate it. It's going to help you. It's the future. I I mean, it's the present, but it is the future for you. So we're all interconnected, and the sooner that you go and have that exposure, you're never going to regret it. I have not to this day seen anybody or heard any of my students say, I regret having gone on this program. On the contrary, they always come back and say, this is the best thing I've done in my life. So why would you not go and explore that? If that is, you're going to come back like that. You're going to come back yourself, but an improved version of yourself. You're going to love yourself when you come back. And also, for those of you who, okay, it's not just international education, you don't know what you want to study, this is why you do study abroad. Because when you come back with very focused, with an idea in mind. And most students say, I'm coming back and I'm going to go back and live there, or I'm going to do this and that. Whether they do it or not, it's okay. But what is important that they come back really passionate and feeling wonderful, and why not? So in terms of, if anything, therapy, it's going to help you feel good. You're going to do well. And we also have, our research shows that students do a lot better in class with their classes when they return from an experience like that. It is a life-changing experience. And that goes the same for faculty. My colleagues who think, oh, it's complicated. Oh, I'm going to teach that art class and in this plaza or in that major square. Well, no, it's not complicated. We can adapt. Students will love it. Believe me, they're going to be engaged completely. And yes, there are other things there, but it is the future, and it's good for students. It's what they need. They're going to need that. If they want to have that competitive edge, if they want to get that job, it looks really good in paper and they feel good. So.
Good, thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments about motivating the one's faculty or students with no interest?
Yeah, I think we have the similar, I cannot say problems, issues happen in the school. Like all the faculty, not all the faculty, they are willing to accept this. But what we did is that we did it gently, friendly, and continually, because you cannot force the faculty to accept this. Everyone has different educational background, their life structure, life background, or the grow up environment are totally different. But in my school, we found that something changed. We continually doing this for like 5 to 7 years. And we continually, all the students come in, all the we still invite all the faculty to attend lots of like a ceremony or party or everything. And we share the material, no matter from faculty to faculty or student to students. When one day they got the positive feedback, they were joined in unexpected time. So we have the same problems, same issue happen in the school. But my suggestion, just continually and gently and friendly, and one day they will join together.
Good. Yeah. At CLC, some of our biggest faculty supporters are the ones who have lectured overseas, under our program. They come back and tell everybody else about how wonderful the experience was. So they are like our cheerleaders. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Should we go to the next question or? Okay. So one of the questions that I see in the chat box is, does the panel see dual bachelor's degrees as an increasingly common option for students, a dual bachelor's degree, for one degree from each institution? What do you think of that?
There does seem to be a lot of growth in the area of dual and joint degrees. The difference being whether you get 1 degree from 2 institutions or 2 degrees from 2 institutions. Or there's like bachelor's, master's combos, other ways that they're, that they're divided. It's definitely a growing area and provides so many amazing opportunities, because usually you have students going in both directions, chances to interact. And so marketable in terms of your career search to have had really meaningful experience in another country, having studied, having worked in another country.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, good. So here's another question. Well, okay, let me just read this question. Some of the, I guess this may be addressed to Claudia, but some of the Central American countries seem to be going through a difficult time now. And by the way, Claudia, until a few years ago, I didn't realize you were originally from Nicaragua. And I remember that when there was a TV program about Nicaragua and the leadership and so on. But anyway, so some of the countries are, and that doesn't have to be in Central America. It could be in the Philippines or some European countries. Are safety considerations more difficult to manage these days than in the past? And so this is really from an emergency, concerns. So any changes you have seen over the years?
Okay, yes, so I am from Nicaragua, and precisely because of that comment, thank you for whoever wrote that question. That's why my family is here. It's that government that is imprisoning everybody, right? And so we have gone to Central America when that government wasn't in place or when it wasn't so bad. What we do is we follow, obviously, the U.S. Department of State travel advisories, but I personally contact the embassy in that country. And we've done a number of projects through the Santa Clarita Sister Cities. We have a relationship there with universities, as well as the various organizations and the embassy. And so, yes, that is a concern. And so at this moment, I would not plan to take anybody to Nicaragua, not even to do a global collaborative project. It's not that we just have to be more cautious if we were to do that, but I wouldn't do that. But yes, you mentioned the Philippines, Ecuador, or some of these places in remote locations. And it depends, it depends. But the programs that we've done in the past to Central America, and we must have done at least 5, they were early in the 2003, 4, 5, 6, 8, something like that, even 2009. And that was not a concern. It was only considered a non-traditional, location of study abroad. Most people wanted to go to Europe, Western Europe, and so forth. So yes, we would, first of all, we would not take students to a place where the advisory is a 3 or a 4. 4 is do not travel. 3 is change plans, and maybe a 1 or 2 would do that. And again, I think the embassy can help us a lot, and they do every time we travel. In fact, I make sure that in the program, we always go to a briefing at the U.S. Embassy. And if we go to Nicaragua, Managua, or in Quito, etc. So yeah, but everywhere, you never know. So for example, in Nicaragua, yes, there's a government that it's a problem for Nicaraguans specifically. In terms of crime, you'd be surprised when you see that the crime is very low. They're not going to go and assault you. Even Costa Rica, which is a peaceful country and the government is perfect, the crime rate is higher than in Nicaragua. So it's all relative. It depends on if it's study abroad at a university, we're meeting students over there, or if it's a social project that we're doing, a delegation, etc. So we keep that in mind. Yes, safety.
Good. Any other comments about safety?
Most colleges and universities have a committee that makes these decisions. So it's not usually like one individual that has to decide, but a group that really weighs those risks and looks at the recommendations from the State Department and others before deciding if the program should go ahead.
Just my personal experience as an undergraduate student, I had a summer study abroad we went to Rome, and then Egypt, and then Israel. And then after I came back, I realized how dangerous it could have been. I didn't I wasn't aware of it. But for instance, the place we stayed, looking at the Great Pyramids, it was an American chain hotel. That place was bombed a few years after I was there, you know. So it's like, whoa, I guess we were in sort of a scary place, but it was safe back then, you know, but things changed too. So sometimes students aren't aware of these things. I do have a question that was addressed to Daniel, and that was this. In the US, the laws, the tort laws, you know, those considerations seem to be driving policy and opportunities, but what are the legal environmental requirements, or what's the legal environment in Taiwan like?
You mean, pardon, can you ask again? Sorry.
Well, so the question is, in the US, tort laws seem to drive policy and opportunities, but this came from one of our team members, and so maybe I can ask him. Tim, do you want to unmute yourself and ask him the question about the...
Yes, certainly, of course.
Okay,
Thank you very much, Saab.
Yeah.
Yeah, what had occurred to me as I was listening to the panel, by the way, this has been fascinating, is that a lot of the decisions that we make, like we just talked about with Dr. Acosta saying level 3 and level 4, and Katherine saying that there is a committee. Well, that's in the United States. In Taiwan, are parents as litigious? Are there so many worries the institution has that something could go wrong and someone will sue the high school? Is it like that in Taiwan, or is that kind of a uniquely US-centric issue when it comes to study abroad? And bonus points, the fact that you're hesitating kind of answers the question.
Yeah, Daniel, I think, for instance, in the US, if a student studies abroad and something happens while the student is abroad, like, you know, if there's a disaster or something, and the student gets hurt or, you know, gets involved in some terrible happening, it's very likely that the parents or somebody in the family would sue the school or people involved in the program. But, you know, would that kind of things happen there? Does your State Department give you a warning about different, you know, countries and the dangerous levels or so on?
Actually, we don't have this kind of suit problems in Taiwan. If even if something accidentally happens, yeah, because when we enroll an international education program or any kind of program, any kind of services, we need to get the parents' consent from them. They agree, and then we did it. This is the first part. And second part, we will guarantee the securities. Yeah. For example, as Claudia mentioned about Nicaragua, we usually do like a risk management. If we think that is very dangerous or any issue happen very soon, we will stop it immediately. So but we will tell parents or tell their students immediately what is our decision and why we want to do that one. Yeah, so under the full communication, still then they will sue like government or sue the school. We are not that. I know in America, lots of school staff sometimes go to the law and to solve the problem, but in Taiwan it's not like that. Yeah, it's more peaceful, more gentle. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the things we do in the United States is to prevent ourselves from being sued.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something, and that was that it is true that anybody can sue anybody and for any reason, with a legal basis or not. But we do have something called waivers, and our students have to sign a lot of forms before they engage in these programs. In the same way, it's not just about, for example, they can't consume drugs abroad. If we know, we find out, we send them, ship them back, no questions asked. or if they get engaged in something that it's not right, or they drink and things of that nature. So they can be expelled, and we expel them. We have expelled them, and we will do that. So they also, there's a conduct, and we also tell them they have an orientation not only here about the country, but as soon as they get there, they are told you are not to go here and here, and they meet. And that's why personally, I like to take them to the U.S. Embassy, because they get the briefings. And also, so they know where it is. If there's anything, that's where we're running to. That's where we're going. So, anyhow.
Good. I want to be mindful of our time. It's close to the time, ending time. We have, I guess we have a poll, and Maritza, well, first of all, are there any other questions? Any more questions or comments? Last minute thing you want to say?
I just want to say how much I've been enjoying the conversation here, and it really informs what we can do, should do, and then who we should go for counsel, for resources. Claudia, your experience with the students again and abroad is just invaluable. And Daniel, I mean, I always feel Daniel put me to shame with the things that he does with his high school students. I said, you did that with high school? And then Katherine, I really appreciate how you bring in terms of pedagogical approach, and then how we in the higher education, international higher education, you need to look at, what you said, like if you're teaching the same class and overseas is exactly the same, you're not doing something right? Because the whole idea of taking abroad is for them, for professors to look at things differently, and in order for students to benefit for different contexts for the same subject learning. So I have to say, this is just a fabulous panel, and I so appreciate your time and your expertise.
Yeah, thank you to those who have served on the panel, and everybody who has participated and attended this. We do have our concluding poll that we would ask you to just answer a few questions. And so Maritza has just launched a poll. Do you want to say anything about this, Maritza? No?
Oh, sorry. I was like, where's my mute? I was trying to find, the poll was in the way of the mute button. So yeah, this poll just helps us kind of see expectations, and we want to continue doing this. So after this, we've done this, like I said, 3 years, and we're going to start planning the next 3 years. So we want to see what people like, what people want to see again, or maybe more of. So if we invite you back in the future, then, maybe we'll do something more specific instead of broad, or, we'll see. But that's something that this poll helps us kind of see, is like, just kind of gauge.
Okay, so while you are answering those questions, I just want to thank all of you again for this great conversation. I agree with Tim and Jai. We have learned a lot in just last hour and a half. And so thank you so much for your input, and I appreciate all of your effort. And we hope to see you again at some point, or in some event or another. All right, thank you.